with hearts intent on seeking him completely. And I know you have too, because why else would you be in a church at 10:15 at night, right? When I first met the Lord, my first church was a Salvation Army church in Lower Hutt, New Zealand. And one of the things I loved about the Salvation Army was that every single service, there would be the pastor preaching and the worship team in their place, but then just off to the side, there was the mercy seat. And it was a little step where at any time during the service you could come and do business with God. And I loved that so much. I loved the mercy seat. I would use it often. But I realized it didn't just have to be in the church building, that there was a mercy seat in my bedroom, and there was a mercy seat in the car on my own, that wherever I was, there was a mercy seat. There was a place. And at the mercy seat, things happen. At the mercy seat in my own life, I've been healed. In the mercy seat, I have been corrected. At the mercy seat, I've been changed. And at the mercy seat, I have wrestled. God is more than who we think he is. Rich Melman says he'll bloody your nose and then give you a ride home on his bicycle. And I love that. But God is a God who invites us to wrestle with him. And I love that because it's an intimate picture, skin to skin and sweat to sweat. But it's kind of a dangerous picture. In Genesis 32, Jacob wrestled with God. It says, that night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his female servants, and his 11 sons and crossed the ford. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And the man asked him, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Jacob said, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, which means the face of God, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. See, when you wrestle with God, you might get a blessing, but the blessing might look like a wound. The blessing might look like God exposing or bringing the blessing of a place of vulnerability. When we wrestle with God, we get a new name and we find out who we were always meant to be. When Jacob was born, he was called Jacob. It means he grasps the heel. He was a deceiver, a manipulator. He tried to manipulate to get earthly blessing. But when he wrestled with God, God said, your name shall now be Israel. And he went on to become the father of obviously the nation from whom Jesus came. Before we wrestle with God, we have these ideas about what progress looks like in life. And in the chapter before Jacob wrestles with God, it says he sent gifts ahead of him to Esau to try and make peace, to try and avoid conflict. Sometimes that's what we do in our lives. We like to send our gifts publicly, thinking that that's how we will get where we need to go. But God says, get alone with me and wrestle. Get alone with me and wrestle. And there you will find out who you really are. He went from operating in strategy to walking in his identity. You know, in some of my wrestling seasons with God, he's spoken and given me clues and hints as to what he has or where he is going, but he never tells me the whole story because he's a good storyteller. And so he leaves the best bits for me to discover. But I remember a few years ago, actually not even that long, a couple of years ago, I was wrestling with God because I felt like I had obeyed him in a particular area of life. And I hadn't seen what I thought he wanted the fruit of that obedience to be. And around that time, my husband Scotty and I, we went to a friend's ranch and spent some time with them. And they have this beautiful piece of land. They have about 20 acres of land. It's gorgeous and amazing. And as we were spending time with them, they said that actually this 20 acres was amazing, but they had a dream and a vision that one day they would be able to have 200 acres, and that on that 200 acres, they would be able to build houses for people who needed houses and plant gardens to eat from and plant gardens to make places of beauty. They had 20 acres, but they had a vision for 200. And as we were leaving that place, I heard the Spirit of God speak to me, and he said, "You are mourning and you are grieving because you did not see the harvest that you expected from the 20 acres. But lift up your eyes, because I am plowing the 180. He is breaking new ground. And when he breaks new ground, it's not just for us. It's not so we can have a beautiful 20-acre plot. It's for the community to live, because your personal freedom will lead to a national revival." And when we were praying for this night, and we were praying for you, and we were praying for us, this might be a bit intense, but I didn't do it on purpose. So, I saw an army. I saw an army rising up from what happens in this room tonight. Because this might just be a few thousand people in the room, but on the other side of each one of your freedom, there are hundreds more people and thousands more people. So you take this room and you multiply it, and there is an army on the other side of you getting free tonight. Bobby spoke so profoundly earlier. He said that the enemy has come to destroy lineage. Well, in Jesus' name tonight, we take it back. There is more at stake for us. So really, I just came just to speak for a few moments before we proceed, to ask you, to ask myself, will we be a people who are willing to wrestle with God no matter what it costs us? Because we understand that there is more at stake than just our lives. There is more at stake than just our freedom. There is lineage, there is generations, there is an army who will be missing a contingent if you decide to draw back from the wrestle tonight. I came to ask, will we be a people who are not content to sleep through the night and wake unchanged? But will we be a people of God who are prepared to wrestle until daybreak to find out who we really are and walk forward in who we really are and the knowledge that he is the King? I'm going to finish with this. It's one of my favorite quotes. You'll know it well. From C.S. Lewis, from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Mr. Viva said, "Aslan is a lion, the great lion." "Oh," said Susan, "I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion." "Safe?" said Mr. Beaver. "Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you."